And we are live. Welcome everybody to today's webinar. What innovations should CFOs and treasurers anticipate? Hosted by Treasury Masterminds, sponsored by Kyriba today. And I'm very pleased with two amazing speakers. We have Brenda from Amgen, Cyrille from Kyriba. They will introduce themselves later. They can do that much better than I can do. Some housekeepings before we start. We have 45 minutes. There's a lot of room for questions, and many of you already sent in questions up front, which is amazing. We've incorporated some of them already in my questions, so they will be asked. But feel free to ask them in the chat during the webinar when they come up. If we have time to answer them immediately, we'll do it. Otherwise, there's 5 to 10 minutes at the end. Session will be recorded and put on our channels, YouTube and Spotify, and later on our LinkedIn's as well. Let's not waste too much time and dive into it. I'm Patrick Koens. I will be the moderator. Ladies first. Brenda, can you quickly introduce yourself?
Sure, thank you. So my name is Brenda Schreuder. I'm currently working as a Treasury Director in Amgen, a biopharmaceutical company which is headquartered in the US. I've been working there for 12 years, and my responsibilities are mainly all of the Treasury activities that are happening outside of the US. So that includes Europe, Asia, Middle East, and Latin America and Canada. We are also responsible for the in-house bank that is residing in the Netherlands. And I work a lot with different systems, so I'm happy to be here today, and hopefully we'll also learn something new. Thank you.
Very good. Cyrille?
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here with you. I'm Cyrille Oudard, in charge of what we call the value engineering activity for EMEA at Kyriba. So just basically, in a nutshell, value engineering is really to support our customers and prospects when they decide to start a selection of a TMS, maybe for the first time, or maybe to replace an obsolete technology. There's always questions about the scope, the priorities, the benefits, the roadmap, the strategic roadmap they should implement. So we are here to help. And we decided to create this team in 2017, and I joined in 2018, Kyriba. And most of the time, treasury teams are quite small. They need to prepare for their project and for their TMS journey. So we have developed a methodology to help those teams to understand where they stand today, what are their let's say strategic objectives, and how they score compared to some, let's say, peers, compared to the benchmark, and we provide some best practices to have a comprehensive analysis on their project.
Yeah. So you're not sales focused, you're solution focused.
Yes, exactly.
Yep. Good. So let's dive into it. Brenda, I want to start with you. Long career in Treasury, long career in Amgen. You must have seen it changed, as is the world changing. Looking at your Treasury function, can you see what innovations have you implemented, and what was your main focus during these implementations, and why?
So when I started with Amgen, that's already 12 years ago, I had been in previous treasuries roles, and I was quite impressed with how liquidity was, let's say, optimized through, cash pools, and there was a lot of manual work and funding avoided by just, the standard treasury cash management setup that centralize your cash. But then over the years, while your company expands, we have expanded into Asia, into Middle East, into more complex countries. there is still a need to do things better with the same amount of people, right? And those are often the countries where we spend more time because of the fact that certain things are just simply not allowed, like, for example, cash pooling. So we've been focusing on how to repatriate capital from overseas back to the US, how we can do that efficiently, how we can at any moment in time see what our cash balances are. That has been, I think, a challenge 12 years ago. But today, for example, we send a daily, almost fully automated report to the CFO, which just quickly shows him what is the cash we have at hand and where it is. And I also see that we are now in this new situation where we are moving to a even more advanced treasury, because we are upgrading our ERP system into S/4HANA, where we will do some of our treasury processes, and we are optimizing our current TMS, because we feel like there is still areas where we can improve, and that is mostly on the cash flow forecasting side. It's, we cannot use the historical data that well for our forecast because of the changes in the company, but also globally. I guess there have been quite a lot of uncertainty, so it's very hard to predict what the future is going to bring based on historical data. So we're looking to bring that additional value into treasury, and that's, I think, still the goal to achieve.
Yeah. That's interesting what you say, that 12 years ago it was a challenge to see my now. What do I have now? Now 12 years later, we have the now. How much do I have now? And suddenly that's the new normal, that's a given. And the challenge is even more, okay, but now we want to know, what do we have in the future? How about you forecast? How about you predict the future? Because that's what forecasting is still about. Educated guessing, still, but it's hard to predict the future in a changing world, changing environment. But that's where you come in, Cyrille. The value engineering, non-sales focused, really helping clients improve their treasury. I'm curious, where, if you come in with a potential client, where do you start? Where do you look at? Do you have a checklist you work with on, or do you check with the client where their priorities are, and see how you can improve? Yeah, I'm curious.
Yeah. Yes, a very good question, because it could look at a very, very difficult task, let's say, to understand an organization we don't belong to, of course. And so the very first step is really to understand where the company wants to go and where are the strategic objectives. And Brenda was mentioning about expanding. This is one of the key elements of the ambition, let's say, of the organization. And we are here to understand where the organization wants to go, to be sure that the current situation is aligned with these strategic objectives. And that's where we come in. We have defined a methodology based on a very detailed taxonomy on processes and sub-processes to really have a complete management of the liquidity. And we will be looking at in detail each of these sub-processes to be sure that the maturity, the performance of each of them will help in reaching those strategic objectives. So it means, for instance, in the example of Brenda, to expand to some geographies, to have a better view on the short-term forecasting. So reviewing these processes will help us to build recommendations on where you should go, what could be your priorities in terms of project, maybe the first phase of your project, the second phase of your project, and will help in building this strategic roadmap. But it's not only about what we call the what you should address first. it's also what will be the value that you will get from this project. And exactly as Brenda said, where is the value in my project in expanding such a functionality in my TMS? And the third point is why I should do it now. When I look into the strategic objective of the company and I want to be the business partner of the CEO, where I should put my, let's say, focus on the forecast, on the short-term forecasting, on the long-term forecasting, and what will be the value I will get at the end. And if I don't do it now, what are the risks that I will face if I don't do this project now? And what we call the do-nothing scenario, evaluating the do-nothing scenario and what could be the loss, let's say financial loss or reputation, etc.
Yeah, that's an interesting approach. Does that mean you also help your clients determine the potential ROI, the return on investment of course, choosing
Yes.
Kyriba, but RTMS?
Yes, exactly. And we can mention Kyriba. Of course, I'm working for Kyriba, but it means also doing your project. What could be the ROI? And of course, it's all about a conversation. I'm not the smartest guy on the planet, so I might get it wrong, but it means that it's a conversation with the treasurer, the CFO, and to be sure that we got the right figures at the end.
Yep, that makes sense. I'd like to hear your opinion about that, Brenda. Is cross collaboration between treasurer and vendors, but also treasurers and banks, on co-building functionality and the future use cases, is that the future?
Yes, I think so, because I think software providers, but also banks need to understand what we need, right? What are our priorities? But at the same time, I think it's good that there's a separate team that looks at, bringing actual value to the client and seeing what fits well, what is the return on investment, what are the risks if you do not implement. But I also think that as a corporate, you will have to do that analysis yourself to make sure that, you have done your due diligence and you can bring that to the CFO or within the organization to make sure that you have a objective, let's say, picture. But yes, absolutely, we should all work together. And I think the challenges come when we listen to each other, and that's where the solutions are built. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. In this triangle between banks, vendors, and corporates, we can really help each other out here. And I see that we are much better at that currently than we were 12 years ago, where I was much more sales focused. I have a solution for a problem, and not necessarily a problem that needs a solution. So yes, let's dive into the real use cases. That's what the title is about. We want to hear what the future brings. Cyrille, we have to talk AI. We have to talk machine learning, automation. You know a bit about that, and we don't need hardcore AI functionality here. And I often hear from potential clients, Patrick, how can I use AI? I think that's the wrong question to ask. But where do treasurers start? How do treasury departments prepare to start using these tools in their daily operations? Because maybe the questions, do they need it? But that might be inevitable. Maybe not now, but in the future. But what's the starting point? Where do you start using AI? And is it the data? Is it the tool? What's your experience?
Yeah, first, really, as a global comment, we see that if you don't have AI today in your TMS, as a vendor, it's very difficult to explain that you are innovative, modern, if you don't have AI somewhere in the feature. So it's just it's quite strange, but I mean, this is the way it is. This is the market. But AI started maybe, I mean, just before the COVID or so, we 2018, 2019, we had AI already on specific use cases such as machine learning on fraud, for instance, on fraud detection. So it was really AI based on historical data. And so, of course, you needed to have the data to be sure that it can work properly. Now we can see some use cases, of course, a lot of use cases around cash prediction, cash forecast prediction, still using the historical data. But for us, I mean, we see that it will become, it will be part of the day-to-day life of the treasury team. Not only the machine learning, of course, but also what we call the agentic AI or the extension of the Gen AI. And this is something that it will be completely part of the TMS, and it will transform the treasury management. And I was reading an IDC report recently, an IDC study about this, and it will have an impact on the coming 2 years for most of the treasury team. I mean, the treasury group treasurer, CFOs, they think that half of them think that it will have an impact on their day-to-day activity. So there's quite significant optimism around AI or about what it will bring. But in terms of adoption, or let's say how it will be adopted, there are some resistance. I would say some technical resistance that are about the availability of the data, as you mentioned, and probably also about the security or the concern around the security. Is my AI secured in terms of accessing data or maybe pushing my data outside my system? And there's also a resistance on the human side, because maybe you, maybe me as well, we are afraid of being replaced by an AI tomorrow. maybe you are not real, Patrick. I don't know. Not yes, it's you. And so tomorrow we will be, I mean, we will be surrounded by what we call agentic AI, and we will use them, but we need to be in trust with those, let's say, new features. Yeah, so that's why I wanted really quickly. Maybe we can deep dive into some use cases, but
yeah, no, yeah, indeed, the automation of forecasting, improvement of forecasting accuracy, but also what Brenda said, that the historical data, you can't really use it because the market changes or the environment changes, and it's just not useful. So you really have to need something to predict the future as an educated guess. And are you looking into AI, Brenda? Is that something?
I think, it would be great that we could use AI for our forecasting, but we just don't think it's at this moment feasible. And I think, we have this cash flow forecasting project on our priority list. It's on the CFO priority list. But the trouble is that the data that we need to build a good forecast comes from so many different systems. And I think 2 years ago, we decided to use a software dedicated to cash flow forecasting. But then because of security reasons around the data that Cyrille was referring to, it was put on hold by our company. And so we are back to kind of square one. And even though we feel like AI is, something we must do, and all of the, let's say, TMS are kind of telling us that's the way forward, and it is, I think the troubles that Cyrille alerted to are the ones that we struggle with today. And, we have our long-term forecast in one system, we have our short-term AR and AP in another one, we have our cash balance in our TMS, and we need to kind of put that picture together in order to get to a forecast and then still use some external data to understand what the environment potentially can do and do scenario playing with that. So if there is a tool that can do that without having all these security concerns, that would be great. But I just don't feel like that is at the moment available. So we kind of have to see what it is that is going to today bring us the biggest value in terms of reduction of manual work. But I feel like, maybe in 5 to 10 years, we'll be in a much better place.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think your message is AI is not the magic toolbox where we push a button and then it suddenly spits out exactly what we asked for. Maybe in 5 to 10 years, maybe also not. Maybe it still needs a human to control it, to train it, to teach it. But we need to do that. AI is still a tool. It's not a solution. It's a tool to a solution.
But I think there are like processes where AI can be implemented, much easier. Like, for example, for your cash application process, I think machine learning, or that's more machine learning, but I think there you will be able to reduce a lot of manual work, and it can be the tools are readily available. But yeah, when it comes to cash flow forecasting, I think that's because there's so much data required from different sources that you have the challenge, and I'm sure that we will find that a solution will be found. I just feel like it's not there yet today.
Yeah.
And it's a technology also. We need to be able to, let's say, to use it efficiently. For instance, all of us are using sometimes ChatGPT, Gemini, Mistral AI, and if it is someone else who is asking the question in the prompt, the answer might be a bit different. I see with some young colleague here, they know how to use it very easily. Maybe it's a bit more difficult for us, but probably there will be a new generation that will be very efficient with such tools, and as they let's say grow with this technology, as it was the case for the mobile phones. So this is also something that will be at stake in terms of skills, having the people able to use those new technologies.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. And I'll come back with some questions later on that, people and skills. As long as these colleagues who are very good at using it don't take everything for granted that the GPT spits out with hallucinations and stuff, I don't see any issues for them using it. It's same with people. If somebody tells you something and you're like, this might not be true, do the same with any GPT, who tells you something just because it's an AI tool. It doesn't have to be correct all the time. I think that's my share of advice. I think enough about AI. Instant payments. I think that's one of the other innovations. Brenda, or at least faster international payments. Is that something you're looking at from your treasury perspective?
Yeah, so while we are going through this upgrade of our ERP system, we are looking at payments in general. And the thing is, instant, like making immediate payments for us is not on top of the Amgen priority list, because we are very much focusing on optimizing our working capital. So actually, we've moved away from daily payment runs and doing weekly payment runs just to have that little bit of extra working capital available. So not at the top of our priority list, but I must say that might also be the business you're in, that you must, that might be very interesting, maybe a tech company or a online, I don't know, web shop or something. But we are not, we are looking to postpone our payments as much as we can. Though we cannot avoid not thinking about instant payments, because it could be that our customers, for example, do want to make instant payments, and then we get to the point where the banks might accept even payments in the weekends. We see that cutoff times are changing, and so we're thinking, okay, we do need to keep that in mind while we're on this journey to think about TMS and how do we upgrade our systems, because we want to be able to see that information as fast as we can. So we are looking at real-time statements so that at any moment in time, we can see a customer has paid us. We can potentially release that order that was on block because of the credit limit. And with that, just have more efficiency in the process. So, yeah.
Yeah. But that means then it starts with Treasury, who processes that, or it starts with the bank, who gets an instant payment in, sends the bank statements to Treasury via your TMS or not, via the bank, via an API. Then Treasury knows the payment is in, but that's Treasury. Treasury doesn't do the recon. So it means accounting needs to also move to real time. They need to process it real time. Then it needs to be sent to whatever department that unblocks a product for shipping. That's whole embedded finance thing. We always think it's very easy, but the whole value chain needs to be taken into account. Is there something you're looking at? Because treasury teams are usually small, accounting teams, procurement teams, much bigger. Who should own this? Interesting approach.
Yeah, so I think you need to always cross-functionally involve the accounting and your AR or customer finance team to make sure that they know that potentially we can get statements in the weekend, and machine learning will help to apply your cash automatically, right?
Yeah.
And hopefully you will find some automation in that process as well, because in the end, if a customer pays you for an invoice, it's this customer, normally with machine learning, the system can do a lot on its own. So we are hoping to have that kind of setup. We know, as we are still on a journey and we need to see how it works, but hopefully, yeah, we will find some automation and some less manual actions there from the accounting and AR teams.
Yeah, interesting. Cyrille, what are you seeing there in the market? You must be.
Yeah, I mean, now is how we need to be, of course, to be able to support this kind of changes in the organization, and for sure it brings value, because, as mentioned by Brenda, it will allow some organization to reduce the working capital. I mean, to optimize the working capital, maybe paying a bit later and investing the cash when it's in excess, and it will save also hours in terms of reducing the manual processing. So there are some opportunities here. This is what we help in calculating this kind of benefits. But for sure, as a software vendor, we need to be ready to process instant payment. And of course, on the ERP side, they need sometimes to do multiple time a day, sometimes not real time, but multiple time a day. It's already not too bad. Yes. And,
I agree. Small steps forward. Forget the end of day. That's quite. That's history. End of day. That's just too long ago. I like that middle ground, multiple times a day, as a step in between real time. Like, do we always need real time? I don't know. I read a statement from somebody yesterday. Full 100% real time payments worldwide will never happen, because then I can move my money to all the cutoff times of the banks, 1 minute before 12 in London time, 1 minute before 12 in New York, and earn interest multiple times a day. I thought that was an interesting approach. I think the banks will change then as well, the interest calculation, instead of end of day doing how long was the money really on my account. But you see how things evolve. It's often not a big bang, it's small steps forward. Okay. Another one, Cyrille. ISO 222, the new XML payment standards, mostly a bank issue, but in the end, this will also be a Treasury issue. Is that on the Treasurer's agenda?
Yeah, I mean, it's higher on the Treasury agenda because we are speaking a lot about it, of course. It's also part, let's say, of the commercials from vendors to speak about the readiness of ISO 20022. And this is mostly, I mean, for November 2025, it is, of course, more a bank problem more than a corporate problem. But of course, banks are pushing corporates to be ready also to comply with 2022 because it will bring, of course, additional services, because it will bring some additional data. It will help in a better analysis of the cash flows, and of course fraud detection. So there are some benefits, and like any regulation, there is a, let's say, a side that will constrain corporates, but there will be also an opportunity for new service and new, maybe not business, but new service. So, of course, treasurers should have a look on what it means in terms of impact on their own system. Banks probably will ensure conversion between the old format and the new format during a certain period. But of course, you will have to tackle this issue, let's say, in the coming years. I mean, 12 or 18 or 15 months.
Yeah. I agree. It's nice to trust the banks that they are ready, but you're saying treasurers, be ready yourself. I think that's the best approach, and fully agree, because it again drills down to data quality. Yeah, if you're ISO ready, your data is in order. If your data is in order, you're ISO ready. So again, if your data quality improves, you're much more future-proof. Yep, thanks. Do I see questions? Not really. Brenda, let's talk about collaboration, organizational alignment. You think as a treasurer, obviously, in cash flows, in cash, real-time visibility, banking connections. Your boss is your CFO, probably. How does he? Treasurer in the US, close to CFO. Do you have a lot? Do they think the same? Is it also on their agenda?
Yes. Yeah, I think Amgen has very, how do you say, we have very big technology goals for the coming 10 years. We're investing in a very big technology center, actually, at the moment. So it's not particular to Treasury, but actually to the whole company, that this is really a priority at this moment. I think in pharma as well, certain things can be done much faster now. Certain data sampling around, around trials, clinical trials, potentially can be done faster with technology. So it's just something that the company is investing in as a whole. But for the finance organization, that's no different. So I think we have a lot of support. There's enough budget available to scale up what we need to do. I think we had a pretty let's say, how do you say? We had a pretty good technology footprint already from a treasury point of view, but I think we still need to scale up if we want to do what I was referring to earlier. If we want to build that cash flow forecast, which we can do scenario planning for, where we can present different scenarios to the CFO, where we can say, hey, look, if this happens in the world, then potentially this could have this kind of impact on our cash balances, and we could do this and this and this in order to still be good from a treasury point of view and to keep the company secure. So yeah, I do believe that we have that support, and I also believe that Because of that, Treasury has actually has gotten a bigger seat at the table in the CFO office over the last 10 years, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm also seeing that with some of my clients, but still Treasury is a small team, a fairly small team, but with a big responsibility. We manage the cash, we manage the future cash, and also mainly the debt. I'm a strong believer, of course, collaboration. The treasurer leaving his ivory tower, like we nicely say that, going out there, really go out there, talk to other teams. Yeah, Cyrille, I want to hear from you. Tell me some stories from your clients. What do you see with them? How do they collaborate?
Yeah, I mean, cash forecasting is really the good example in terms of collaboration inside the organization, because, as you mentioned, cash is under the responsibility of the treasurer, but it does not belong, let's say, to the treasurer, because all the employees of the companies, more or less, they have an impact on cash in day-to-day activities. So really, when you speak about cash forecasting, accuracy of the cash forecasting, it involves, let's say, the whole company. So what we see here is usually we work with our customer or prospect to understand how is the cash forecasting process and how we can help to ensure that there is contribution from all the different stakeholders of the company who are involved in the cash forecasting, that can be part, let's say, of this project and can be part of this cash forecasting process. In particular, when there's a lot of entities of subsidiaries, because the cash forecasting accuracy is really at the local level. But of course, the more you are going at the local level, the longer it would take to consolidate all the forecast. And we have example of TMS expansion within the company, where they want to give the access to local subsidiaries to increase the forecast accuracy. But of course, it needs a lot of change management in order to ask them to input the right data at the right place at the right time, and to have a cascading process to be sure that at the end of the day you have the right vision on the cash forecast, and not 2 months later. Of course, you need it quite quickly in the timely manner. So that's a very interesting use case in terms of efficiency, global efficiency of the organization.
Yeah. Oh, great example. And we have to do that with fairly small teams. I think, Brenda, your team is maximum 10 people, 5 to 10 people.
Well, in the US we have more people indeed, but yeah, I think it's around that number. Yeah.
So let's talk a bit about these people, because 12 years ago we were already happy if we could collect the bank statements and the as-is position. Now we're talking about APIs, cash connectivity, bank connectivity, difficult forecasting, etc. It means treasurers need to get a bit more tech savvy. Not all of us are. So how do we need to gap this knowledge gap? And does every treasury team maybe need a tech-savvy system manager, or I don't know about the title, it doesn't sound sexy, but at least a tech guru. What's your view?
Yeah, I don't think we need to know everything about technology, but I think you do need someone responsible for treasury systems or for systems in general, because of the role this is playing and is going to play even more in the future. And actually, we have a recently added a project manager to our team, which is also responsible for systems. And And I do think that tech savviness is helpful to be able to, talk to your tech people that actually need to do the job and build the configurations and build those interchanges that you need for your data. So it is helpful to be that person that understands a little bit what they're coming from, but I don't think you need to know all the nitty-gritty details. It's often just that translation from what we want into what is the technical requirement, and making sure nothing is missed there, because some projects can go awfully wrong if certain requirements were technically not really clearly defined. So yeah, I do think that would be helpful.
Yeah,
It of course
makes sense.
The size of your team and what's possible, but if you cannot have a dedicated person, it's always good to have that tech savvy person in your team to make sure they can handle those kind of conversations.
Yeah. Is this also something you see, Cyrille? Do you see the tech knowledge growing?
Yeah, and I like what the way Brenda said, the need of data, because really, as you mentioned, is not we don't need someone with 2 PhD in IT working in the Treasury team. That's not the case, but we need someone understanding the data you are working on, because I mean, for two reasons. The first reason is that you garbage in, garbage out, so you need to be sure that you do have the right data, and also because there are some audit aspect that to be sure that the data is not modified, updated. The integrity of the data is very important, and sometimes we could have some let's say wrong decision on data, thinking that it will solve one problem, but actually it will create another one. So this is very important to have someone who is data driven, let's say minded, to be sure that it will help. So we see most of the time some IT system, treasury system, project manager, exactly as you mentioned, but of course it means that it's already a quite significant team. I mean, about 10 people minimum worldwide in the Treasury team.
Yeah, but it's a role that it wasn't there 10 years ago, because we didn't have the capacity for that role. But this role now really bridges the gap between the Treasury or the wider Treasury IT of these departments, the data, and the vendors out there, the banks out there, on what capabilities are there, how do I can connect them. They don't have any operational role really, but really look at are my connections working, are my data flows working, is my forecast accuracy still okay, or do I need to improve something? And it is indeed a bit of a trend that you see that with bigger companies. But I think for medium-sized companies, maybe smaller-ish companies, I think they can reach out to you, right, Cyrille? That's what you offer them.
Yes, exactly, and we help them on this aspect, and of course, I mean, usually they are quite happy with that. Especially as you mentioned at the beginning, it's not a commercial, let's say, only. It's also to help them and to support them on their reflection.
Yeah. No, indeed. Maybe another question for you, because it's not only Kyriba out there. There are other vendors out there. There are big TMSs out there. There are specialized payment hubs out there. There are tools for only cash flow forecasting out there. Can you give us some non-subjective tips on how should we evaluate all these tools out there? Should we do checklists based on money versus value? Any tips on that to build this ROI? Because not everybody's going to reach out to you now. Any tips are welcome.
Yeah, we usually start, let's say, we say that the point is really to know where you want to go. And this is where we help. Because after you have, I mean, I showed in some conference that you ask ChatGPT to help you on the selection of your TMS, and it can give you a lot of insight on how to choose a TMS. But the very first step is really to identify where you want to go, which challenge you want to address, and what could be the benefits. So in this case, this is preliminary to any RFP or TMS selection. And then when you are at the criteria level, it's really to have a global view and to think of the future, not only one topic you want to address right now, but to think about what will be the landscape of your company maybe 2 or 3 years later.
Yeah.
I mean, in a nutshell.
No, of course, but you have to start somewhere, and
Yeah.
and I really like it. If you're here and you want to go there, what steps do I need to go there? And I cannot jump that in one step. Take it step by step, and it's not always easy. And of course, I'm a treasury consultant myself. I also do that myself. So. Oh, great! But it means if anybody from the audience, a non-Kyriba client, wants your help, they are open to contact you, and you're open to help them.
Kyriba client as well, if they want.
Yeah, of course,
No, of course.
But they know how to find you. I would
exactly,
assume.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. No, that's a great service. I think some listeners might appreciate that. We're already out of time. I don't see many big questions on the chat as well. We also covered many questions that were sent in previously. Big thanks, Brenda. Big thanks, Cyrille. It's quite insightful. It was only 45 minutes, so we only was the tip of the iceberg. If you really want a deep dive, we're here for 2 or 3 hours. But no, this was really really good conversation. Thanks for sharing your insights and details. And yeah, great on having you. And enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you too. It was a pleasure.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.